visible? Hello.
Yes, sir, it is visible. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, please. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this session we are going to discuss about the scanning techniques along with the practical implementation using the tool called Wireshark, and also we'll be using another tool called Nmap. So in the morning, we have already seen about the introduction about OSI layer and TCP layers and different protocols at each and every layer, because these protocols are the building blocks for the communication that we are seeing in our day-to-day life. So we emphasize in this session more onto the practicals using the traffic packet analyzer tool called Wireshark, and then we move on to the scanning part, as well as using the practical implementation of the scanning techniques using Nmap tool. So I'll just try to give a brief kind of revision kind of thing along with the Wireshark also, because Wireshark is one such tool. Whatever we have discussed regarding the TCP/IP protocol suite, so that entire layered approach that can be visible as part of the Wireshark tool. So we'll be discussing about this Wireshark tool and how that layered approach, and in each layer what are the protocols, and we have also discussed about these different header parts. So why actually each header or the parameter is very important in these kind of protocols, that we'll discuss one layer by layer, and then we move on to the different scanning techniques. So as we have seen, the main OSI versus TCP, like so this is the major classification or the distinction between your OSI, where OSI we generally say it's a theoretical approach where we have 7 layers into this. Right from the top layer, we can say application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical layer. Again, when coming to the TCP/IP protocol suite, so these are again converted into 4 layers, where the physical and data link, we can say it as a physical layer, and some books say it's a 5 layers, so we can make it as 2 layers also, physical as well as data link. The network is as it is a network layer, and the transport, it is transport layer, and the application, presentation, and session layers are into the application layer. So this is how the TCP/IP protocol suites look like. So now we'll quickly move on to the Wireshark tool. Yeah. So this is the website that is used to download Wireshark. And if you are familiar with the tool or the operating system called Kali, where this is most widely used for the penetration testing or the ethical hacking kind of scenarios, where all these tools are already pre-built into that. Or if you want to download it on your existing operating system, like if you name Windows or any of the Linux distributions. Yeah. Is it okay, sir, now? Yeah. So then we can able to use this particular website. It's called wireshark.org. Wireshark is one such world most widely used packet capturing tool or the packet analysis tool. Using this tool, we can able to even monitor our network communication, and along with the knowledge of the TCP/IP protocol suite, we can able to see the communication that is happening in the background. Because we may be talking about the theoretical kind of things about the communication that is happening in the background. But using this tool, we can easily visualize the kind of communication that is already happening in the background. Okay, sorry. So we use this particular Wireshark tool for our demonstrations today. And this is the website. It is wireshark.org. Again, we can see there are 3 sections in the website. One is the download section, and one is the documentation section, and the other one is some kind of advanced level with respect to the tool. So if we click on the download section, we can see this particular tool is available for almost all the operating systems which are available. Okay, so we can use the Windows installer for the 64-bit as well as 32-bit. Even we can use it as an app on the Windows operating system, and even it is available for the Mac operating system. Even for Linux distributions, it is available as the source code. So we can directly download the tar file and we can try to install on the different distributions of Linux, whether it may be Ubuntu or whether it may be CentOS or Red Hat, whatever the Linux distribution we can tell, because it is a source code. So we can directly install the source code by building it and installing. So this is about the installation part. Now we'll quickly move on to the demonstration. So first we'll see the kind of TCP/IP traffic, the protocols at each layer. Then we'll go on to the scanning tools. So from now onwards also, whatever the practical demonstration that we see from now onwards, because to all the participants, try to use this Wireshark tool in the background, because whatever the communication that is flowing on through the wire or through this communication, that can be possible using this particular Wireshark tool, right? So for this, I'll be using two kind of machines, on which on one machine I have installed the Wireshark, and the other machine is my target machine, or the kind of machine to generate the traffic I'll be using. So I'll be using two machines for this demonstration. So first we'll quickly move on to the one machine where this Wireshark has been installed. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'll be sharing those virtual machines. Dheeraj, you can share your screen. Yeah, as you can see, this is my machine where the Wireshark tool has been installed. Okay, so first we'll open the Wireshark tool. Okay, as you can see, this is the Wireshark tool. So before that, I'm not going much into the installation part, because on an Windows machine, it is normal a kind of EX installation. We have to download the Wireshark.exe from the website which we have discussed now. Okay, and then just process for the installation. But one quick thing I would like to show it here. First, we'll go to the network connections. Go to the network connections. Yeah, on this network connection, just click on right click and go to properties. Yeah, here we can observe at the bottom, there is one particular thing that has been added. Okay, just scroll up. Just will scroll up and yeah, we can see this client for Microsoft Networks as well as QoS packets scheduler. So whenever we install Wireshark, so these kind of client for Microsoft Networks will be installed along with the package. Okay, so what happens is how this particular tool will work is, so let's say we'll be using any of the traffic communication medium. So whether it is a wired network or whether it is a wireless network. So we may be using a laptop or we may be using a desktop. So we may be using any one of the communication channels to actually connect to the network or access the internet. So what happens is, so there may be a lot of traffic that is coming onto the NIC card. I think everyone is aware of the NIC card, or it is called network interface card. That is the main physical medium. Or if we talk about the wireless, it may be the wireless adapter, which is talking using the radio communication. So these two physical connections are important, which makes our desktop or the laptop to communicate with the network, right? So whenever we install the Wireshark, now this particular drivers will be installed on this network communication. So if we close this, so we can see we can see this Ethernet. So this Ethernet is our adapter. So whatever we install using that Wireshark, that driver will be associated with this adapter, whether it is a Wi-Fi or whether it is a physical NIC card. So whatever the communication that is flowing on this particular adapters, the Wireshark tool also sits along with this adapter and try to capture the communication that is coming onto this adapter. So whatever the communication that is flowing onto this adapter, that will be detected by the tool and will be displayed onto the particular tool. Now, if we again go to the Wireshark tool, now here we can see. So this is the main window on which this particular Wireshark tool has been detected. Now, if you can see, there are two adapters that is being shown on this particular window. The first one is the Ethernet and the second one is the USB PCAP. So what is this USB PCAP is, earlier these kind of features were not available in the tool, but based on the new kind of techniques or new kind of physical devices that we are using, so more and more adapters support has been included into this particular tool. Now there may be cases where we may be using the USB dongles also. Let's say we may using a Tata Docomo, or earlier we may be using these kind of tools, right? Or the Geo dongles. So these kind of dongles that are also the part of this USB dongles, right? So using this tool, we can also use these USB dongles also to capture the information. Now here we can see on this particular screen on the Ethernet, we can see some sort of traffic or a ECG kind of thing. So once we see this kind of communication or a ECG kind of graph, and in the USB thing, you can see it is a deadline. That means there is no traffic that is being generated onto this particular line. But on the Ethernet, we can say there is some traffic like an ECG graph. That means a traffic is being generated. Why this particular window is also important is, there may be a case in some instances, there may be 2 or 3 adapters are also being added to a particular desktop or a laptop. So according to the kind of adapter, we need to select what adapter is really required for us to start the communication or to check the communication. So in this case, we are going for this Ethernet adapter. Just double click on the adapter on which we want to see the communication. Okay, so right now we can see there is no communication that has been generated here. So for this, what we'll do, we'll go to the command prompt. We'll try to generate some communication. Okay, as we have seen, there is another machine for from this where I can initiate the command. Now let's say I'm using a simple command called ping and just trying to check whether the other system is available or not. So for making this particular command or to know whether the other system is available or not, a normal command called ping, which can be used to actually know whether the other system is available or not. I think the same kind of commands we have already seen in the information gathering techniques also. So this particular command, ping space the IP address or the destination IP address. Now we can see we got a reply from that particular IP address. Okay, so I'm using a ping 192.168.10.5 and I got a reply. Now in the background also, we can able to see a particular communication has been generated in the Wireshark, right? Now, if we quickly move on to the first packet that has been generated, now we can see there is a lot of communication that has been generated using this particular communication, whatever we have developed. Now here we can observe there are 3 kind of sections in this Wireshark tool. Okay, so I'll be stopping this communication. The red dot, which we can see, is to stop the communication. For time being, I'm stopping this communication. Okay. Now we can see there are 3 kind of sections in this particular Wireshark tool. The first section is called the human readable format, where the communication, whatever we have that has been captured by the tool over the, using these adapters. So that will be displayed onto this first section. So this is why this is human readable section, is because we can easily understand the communication, what is being displayed here. Now we can see the first column is about the serial number or the kind of communications with respect to serial numbers to understand. And the second column is with respect to the time on which the packets have been captured, right? So you can see the time captured on which in terms of milliseconds or where the particular packet has been captured. The other column is with respect to the source, whether it may be with respect to the MAC address or it is with respect to the IP address. So this is the source from which the communication has been captured. And the other thing is the destination on which the communication has been sent to or from which the communication has been received. Now you can see in this first line itself, we are trying to ping from 10.4 to 10.5. So here we can easily understand that, okay, our source is the IP address 192.168.10.4 and the destination IP address is 192.168.10.5. So the communication has been started from the source 10.4 to 10.5. So by seeing this itself, we can able to easily understand this sort of communication. Okay, so that is where the first section will be used. And also we can see in the next vertical or in the next kind of thing, we can see the protocol that is being used in this communication. So the protocol used here, it is ICMP or the protocol. Okay, so this ping, we are using a ping command, but in the background it is using the ICMP protocol only. So that also we can easily able to say that, okay, this kind of communication is ICMP protocol. And the next column is about the length of the packet that has been received or sent. So it is currently 74 bytes. 74 bytes of data has been sent using this particular packet. And the next column is about the info or the info command or the information, which is some sort of a brief description of the packet. So we can, using this information, we can understand, okay, this particular packet is the echo packet or the ping request because we are requesting to the 10.5. Okay, so this is a request and these are some of the parameters with an ID of so and so and with the sequence number and also the time to live. Now in the fourth packet, you can see the response from it, right? So in the first packet is from 10.4 to 10.5, but in the fourth packet, we can observe it is from 10.5 to 10.4, right? That means we got a reply from 10.5 to 10.4. So whatever we are trying to see within a fraction of seconds or the theoretical part, now we can able to visualize that what exactly the communication that has been flowing on the wire. Now we can see all the communication within a fraction of seconds. We can see a lot of communication that is flowing on this Ethernet physical device that has been captured by this tool. So the first section is about the human readable format. Now, whenever we go to the second section, this section is about the TCP/IP protocol suite which we are talking about. So in the morning, we have seen all the protocols at each and every layer. So we have 4 or 5 layers in the TCP/IP protocol suite. So all this information has been dissected according to the TCP/IP layers. Now we can see the first section here. It is called frame or the entire packet that is being captured using this Wireshark tool. Okay, so as we can see, this is 74 bytes on wire or the same kind of information that we have seen in the earlier window. So all this communication has been now we can visualize in this particular frame. And the second window and in the second parameter, we can see Ethernet, because in a frame, we have to see the layered approach. So first one is the physical packet that has been captured. And second thing is the data link layer frame. And the third layer is the network layer. Then according to the network layer, if there is some kind of dependency like ICMP or IGMP, then we can see accordingly, or else we can move on to the transport layer or the application layer. So here we can see the same kind of protocols. Now here, if we see, there is a dependency of Ethernet layer, and the next one is the the IP layer. Again, IP layer is talking to ICMP. So this is about the different kind of layered approach that we can see in the second section. And in the third section, now we can say this is the exact packet or the raw packet that is flowing on the wire. On the wire in the sense, because we know that system understands only zeros and ones. Whatever we are seeing in the previous windows like the TCP/IP dissection or the human readable format, system doesn't understand about this kind of communication. Whatever we are seeing, all this information is the raw packet that has been captured. So this is the only packet that the system understands. So if we get even your in the coming modules, we will be learning about the intrusion detection systems or the monitoring purpose we may be using firewalls, a lot of communication devices we may be using. But all these communication devices or the communication protocols the system will only understand this hexadecimal format only. So this zeros and ones will be sent on to the physical layer, physical device. The two devices, let's say two systems are talking to each other, they will be talking into using this raw formats only. But this raw formats, as we are seeing on the screen, similarly the operating system will also take this raw packets, and based on this raw packets, based on the different layers, how we are actually visualizing using the Wireshark, the operating system will also take the necessary parameters which are required, and it will try to deassemble this entire packet and try to take each and every parameter that is really required for the communication. That anyway we'll see in the coming sections. We'll try to discuss each and every protocol that are there in this particular thing. Now, with respect to, so I think you got a brief idea now how actually this particular tool will be used to visualize the communication or the kind of traffic that we see or we talk about in our day-to-day things, right? Yeah. So now we'll quickly move on to the layered approach. We'll see, because already we have enough idea about the TCP/IP protocol suite and the different kind of header information already we have discussed in the morning session. Now we'll see a different kind of layers in this. First, we'll quickly move on to the Ethernet layer. Now in the second section, as we are saying, so this is the dissection what we are seeing. Okay, so we'll quickly move on to the Ethernet layer. We'll elaborate this, and also first initially we'll elaborate the frame. First we'll try to see what is there in the frame. I will try to elaborate this frame. Okay, so this is all the information that this, okay, with respect to this frame. Okay, what is the data link layer or the physical encapsulation that has been arrived, that has been used to in this particular packet, and what is the arrival time, okay, with respect to milliseconds or the microseconds that has been used. So entire frame information, what is the frame length. So this kind of information is available in the first part. Next part is the actual Ethernet layer, because the current communication standard which we are using for this communication in our day-to-day life or in our current scenarios is the Ethernet standard. And we already know that Ethernet standard is using a communication or the frame length of 1500 bytes. Okay, so every Ethernet or every packet using the Ethernet standard can take up a maximum of 1500 bytes. Okay, so this particular thing, this 1500 bytes. Now we can see in the Ethernet layer, there are two type of parameters which will be used for the communication. So what are the parameters that are used at the Ethernet layer? We have two parameters. One is called destination MAC address. The other one is called source MAC address, because Ethernet is directly talking to the physical layer of the system, right? So we have two parameters. One is destination MAC address. The other one is the physical source MAC address. And it also points to the kind of protocol connecting to the above layer to it. So if we can see here, we can visualize that. Now in the Ethernet parameter, we have two parameters. Now if we can expand this, the one is called the destination MAC, okay, and the other one is called the source MAC. Okay, so there are only two parameters in the Ethernet layer. Now here also we can see the actual destination MAC address is 08002758B1 and DC. Okay, so this is the actual 48-bit MAC address. The first one is the destination MAC address, the second one is the source MAC address. But here we can observe even the tool is trying to translate, because as we know in the 48-bit MAC address, the first 24 bits belong to the vendor or the company which has developed that particular vendor, and the next 24 bits belong to the actual device, because this particular MAC address is hard coded onto this particular device. no other MAC address in the world will have the same MAC address. So that is the main criteria why this hard code, the MAC address is hard coded onto this system. Okay, that means no one can actually change this MAC address for this particular device. So using this Wireshark, we also have this what we say the kind of database with respect to the vendors that are producing this particular system or the particular devices. So that is where you can see in the destination in the first line, it is saying it belongs to the PCS computers. What is this PCS computers? It is the vendor onto which this particular device has been developed. Okay, and the rest of the 24 bits belongs to this particular device. So this is how we can differentiate between the two different MAC addresses. So one is with respect to the destination, one is with respect to the source. So this is about the data link or the physical layer protocol, nothing but your Ethernet protocol, where we have only two parameters. One is destination MAC address, the other one is the source MAC address, and we can see also a link to the above layer. Now in this particular packet, we can see it is a type of IPv4. That means this particular packet also has some connection to the above layer, that is the network layer, with some IP related communication, right? So this is how we can visualize the TCP/IP communication using the Wireshark. Okay, now we'll again start the communication and we'll try to generate some ARP communication, right? Okay. Oh, sorry. Already here the ARP communication has already been observed here also. Because why? Because after the physical layer, the Ethernet protocol, we have the data link protocol called as ARP, address resolution protocol. Why address resolution protocol is used? Because we were trying to use the IP address for the communication. But ultimately, as we can see in the TCP/IP protocol suite, there are majorly only two communication channels that are available. What are they? One is IP address. The other one is called MAC address. So there are only two type of addressing mechanisms that are available in the entire TCP/IP protocol suite. But whatever the communication we are using is based on the IP address. So this IP address has to be reached to the exact physical machine. So to pinpoint the physical machine in the network, we will be using the MAC address. That is where the MAC address is really important. But how to identify this MAC address? So there should be some kind of mechanism to convert this IP address or translate this IP address to an MAC address to exactly pinpoint that system in the network. So that is where we are using this ARP protocol at the data link layer. Now, in the first section, we can see there are, we are trying to ping from 10.4 to 10.5, but we don't know where is this 10.5 is located on the network. So we also needed to generate this ARP traffic. So this ARP will try to find out where this 10.5 is located. So we can see in the first section, in the human readable section, there are two ARP packets which are generated whenever I have started this ping command. The first one is called the broadcast in the ARP packet. We can move on to the first window. In the second packet, we can observe who has 192.168 10.4 tell to 10.5. So 10.5 is our machine which is requesting for the traffic who is 10.4. So this particular 10.5 is actually initiating a communication and saying and trying to find out this 10.4. So this is one ARP request. This, as we already know, ARP request. So this request is nothing but a broadcast. Why it is a broadcast? Because we don't know where this machine is exactly there on the network. So this particular packet will be sent to all the systems that are available on the network. Okay, so my system will be sending this communication to all the systems available. So this is ARP network. Now, if you can see the same in the Wireshark tool, anyway, we have seen this last window with the raw packet, but we'll try to see this in a layered approach format in the second section. Okay, now If we go to the Ethernet part of this particular ARP packet, again, we can see the same source address as well as the destination, but here we can observe the destination MAC address is broadcast. What is the broadcast address? It is all Fs. So all the destination MAC address will be set to 1 because I don't know where this communication has to be sent on the network. So all this particular thing is set to 1 and sent on to the network, right? Now, we can observe in the source because we already know, because I am the machine who is trying to initiate the communication. So source, I will fill my MAC address and I will send it to the network. Now here we can see the type. The next layer protocol is nothing but the ARP packet. Okay, so now we can see the type as ARP, and again you can see the code as 0806. Okay, now this is the type belongs to ARP. Now immediately we can see the section or the headers related to the ARP. Now what are the ARP? As the first one is the request. So we can see this particular ARP or the address resolution protocol, it belongs to the request part. So again, we can see all the parameters or the header parameters that are available in the ARP protocol. The first one is the hardware type, because we are using the Ethernet, it belongs to Ethernet. Next one is the protocol type, because we are also using the IP address as part of this communication. The protocol type belongs to the IPv4. That means it is a 32-bit addressing mechanism, and that is where it is IPv4. And also we can see the hardware size. What is the hardware size? Because Ethernet belongs to the Ethernet type, that means 48-bit MAC address. So 16 to 8 bits, it is 48 bits. And the protocol size belongs to, it is mentioned as 4, that means 4 into 8 bits, that is 32-bit or nothing but the IPv4 addressing mechanism. Now the most important part is the opcode or the operation code of the ARP request. It is nothing but whether it is a request. So based on this request only, the system will understand whether it is a ARP request or a ARP reply. So now the operation code is request. So it is set to 1. The hexadecimal code is 1. So the system will understand it is an operational, it is an ARP request. Now here we can see the sender MAC address. I know because I am initiating the connection, I will fill my sender MAC address. I know what is my IP address also. So I will fill my IP address also. But in the target MAC address, in the ARP header, there is, you can observe that all the target MAC address is filled with zeros. Why? Because we don't know what is the target MAC address. That is what we need to find out using this ARP protocol. So my target MAC address is filled with all zeros. Okay, but I know what is the target IP address. That is where the ARP. I know the IP address. I want to get the MAC address of this particular destination IP. So this is how the ARP request will look like. It is a broadcast and I don't know the MAC address. Now we'll quickly, now let's say I have sent an ARP request. Now it will be received by all the machines in the network. Now the actual machine to which this this IP address belongs to will actually give me the reply. Now in the third packet, we can say this is a reply from the now we can see in the third packet, quickly move on to the ARP kind of TCP/IP protocol suite. Now we are getting a reply saying that so-and-so IP address is at located so-and-so MAC address. So 10.4 is located at 0807. So this is the reply we have got. Again, the Ethernet parameters will be the same, but in the Ethernet, we can observe the destination source MAC address are filled because we are getting a reply from the destination. So instead of broadcast, we are actually getting a reply. So both the destination MAC address as well as source MAC address are filled now in the Ethernet. Now, if we come to the ARP reply, again, the hardware parameter is same. It belongs to Ethernet. The protocol is also same. IPv4 belongs to the same hardware size and protocol size. Sorry. But the operation code, now here we can observe it is a 2 or it is a reply. So earlier it was 1. Now the operation code is 2. So based on the operation code, now the system will understand that this particular type is a reply, and the code we are getting is a 2. And in the next subsequent parameters, we can see the sender MAC address as well as the sender IP address both are filled, and even the target MAC address and target IP address are also filled, because we are actually getting a response from that corresponding IP address. So this is how the ARP request and ARP reply. Now, whatever we are seen in the theoretical part, now using this Wireshark tool, we can actually visualize that. Now we can simply say this protocol, we are sending an ARP reply, ARP request to the network saying that where exactly this IP address is located, and we are getting a reply from the particular IP address. But how? This theory is okay, but here we can visualize this using this particular tool. That in the first section we can see the ARP has been sent to the particular IP address to 10.4, and also we are getting a reply from the 10.4. So that also we are able to visualize in the TCP/IP protocol suite format also, where that Ethernet headers also we can able to visualize, as well as the ARP headers also we can visualize based on the request as well as reply. So this is with respect to both till the data link part. Now, again, we'll try to see or try to visualize the same thing with respect to the IP related formats. Now, again, we will go to the fourth packet, because we have already used a particular command called ping. So ping, what happens? Ping is nothing but it is using, because ping we are using IP addresses. That means we are using the IP layer to actually know, and this also will also come as one part of the scanning techniques also, because in scanning what we'll do, we also try to check whether the other destination system or the target machine is up or not. Okay, so if we get a reply from the target machine, we can able to come to know that that particular system is up. Or if we are unable to get the reply, we can able to judge that okay, this system may be down. Okay, so we are using ping as one such command. I'm using ping space IP address, so whether to find out whether this system is up or not. So now in this reply also, we can see in the second section. Now in the first, I'm able to ping the IP address, I'm getting the reply. Now this reply again is it has to include the IP layer, because using the network layer only, I'm trying to find out whether this system is available or not. Okay, again, if I go to the different sections, again the Ethernet parameters are same. We are actually using the destination MAC address as well as source MAC address. Now in the type, we can observe in the Ethernet, the type is pointing to IP. In the earlier thing, it is pointing to ARP 0806, but now it is pointing to IP header, that is 0800. Now, if it is pointing to 0800 means the next header that is linked to this particular packet is IP. Now here we can see all the parameters related to the IP header. What are the parameters that are available now? The first one is the version. Okay, we can see it is version 4. Okay, or it is nothing but the 32-bit IP addressing scheme. And the next one is the number. Generally, we this particular header length will be calculated based on the number. Okay, if it is 5 in the bracket, we can see it is 5. That means this 5 we have to multiply with 4 bytes. That is nothing but the 20 bytes. Okay, so the header length of IP is 20 bytes in this particular scenario. And also there are certain parameters in the IP field also, which is used for prioritizing the communication, that is used as part of the differentiated services field. Okay, and the most important part with respect to this is the identification field, where we can see the identification flag. Currently this is 6869. Okay, so that means based on this identification, we can identify the packet of this particular IP. And in the next part, we can able to see the flags. This flags part is also very important with respect to the parameters. Why? Because again, in this TCP/IP protocol suites, all the protocols or all the layers are interdependent. Now we have already discussed that Ethernet header, the maximum protocol or the maximum transmission unit of the Ethernet header is 1500 bytes. Okay, so this 1500 bytes, that means so every packet can have a maximum size of 1500 bytes only. Now let's say there is a packet of 4 MB, okay, or there is a packet of 1 gigabyte. Now if I want to send this communication, how I should send with these 1500 bytes? So I should make this particular communication or the kind of packets which is above my maximum transmission unit into the number of packets, right? So for that only, I'm using this ID called fragmentation, or that will be used in the flags. Okay, if we can elaborate these flags, we can able to see the kind of flags or the fragmentation things. Now we can see currently this is a single packet, so all my parameters that are used for fragmentation are zeros. Okay, now let's say there is one such communication. If there is a fragmentation, then we can see the more fragments will be set to 1, right? So if the more fragment is set to 1, we can able to understand that, okay, this fragmentation or this IP is not a single packet. There are multiple IP packets which is the part of the same communication. Now here the more fragmentation is set to 0. That means this is only a single packet. There is no fragmentation part into this. If there is a fragmentation, again there is a dependency on the fragment offset also, right? And other important parameter that is very much important with respect to IP layer is called the time to live. Okay, so this is also one such parameter that is used, and even in the scanning techniques also we will use the time to live, that anyway we'll discuss in the coming things. Okay, and the other parameter in the IP is the protocol. Here the IP protocol, it is pointing to ICMP. Why? Because we are using the ping command. Ping is nothing but in the background it is using the ICMP. So this particular protocol or the IP protocol is pointing to ICMP. So it is nothing but pointing to the ICMP. So again, if we go, again we have a source IP address as well as the destination IP address, which are part of the IP header. Now, if we again go to the ICMP protocol, because this IP is pointing to ICMP, so again there is a section of ICMP also. So if we can again we try to visualize the ICMP, as in the morning session we have already seen the ICMP parameters. ICMP is used for the communication to give some communication or the feedback to the destination machine. So again, that communication is based on different types and codes. So if the type is 0 and code is 0 in this particular communication, we can see it is a echo reply or the ping reply. So similarly, there may be different types and different codes for the communication that is possible using the ICMP. So ICMP is a simple header protocol where we have only types as well as codes, right? Okay. Now, okay, anyway, we are also seeing the IP part. Let quickly we'll discuss the TTL part also, because this is also used in one of the scanning techniques to understand the behavior of the destination. Okay, so why we generally use the scanning techniques to understand the destination mission or the target mission, right? So in the scanning techniques, so this simple command, ping command, if you go to the command prompt again, just we'll quickly move on to the command prompt. Here we can understand I'm trying to ping one particular IP 192.168.10.5. Okay, so this is one scanning technique. I just wanted to know whether this particular IP address 10.5 is up or not. Now in the subsequent thing, I got a reply from 10.5 saying that I am available to actually communicate. But we can observe here, along with this reply communication, we are also getting a value called TTL. What is this TTL? It is called time to live, right? What is this time to live? So this is one such parameter which is introduced in the TCP/IP protocol suite, because every packet that is generated has to have a time to live set, or the particular communication or the packet which is generated has to discard at one point. Okay, So where there is a life, there is a particular end to this particular thing also. So this particular or the packet which is being generated has also, or else what happens, this packet, it's like a it's like a mortal immortal thing where it will be there on the communication channels continuously. So this particular packet has to be discarded. So for this, we are using this parameter in the IP header called as time to live. Now, as part of scanning techniques, based on this time to live also, we can assess the operating systems. So in the RFPs of the IP header, it has been mentioned that there is a parameter that need to be set by the operating systems. But what is the value that has to be there on the time to live, that has been not mentioned by the RFP. So different operating system vendors are actually took different values for their operating systems. What happens using this time to live, whenever this packet reaches a gateway or a router, this TTL value will be decreased by 1. So if the communication reaches a gateway or a router, now in this case it is 128. So there is a direct communication between the two systems. Let's say if there is a gateway in between, the TTL will be reduced or we'll get the TTL as 127. So by seeing this 127, we may understand two things here. The thing is, most of the Windows operating systems will use the TTL as 128. Okay, that means by using or by seeing this TTL value itself, I can assess, or I can using the scanning techniques, I can know that the operating system on the destination is a Windows operating system. Why? Because I am seeing the TTL value as 128. If I am seeing the TTL value of 128, I can assume or I can assess that the destination target machine is Windows operating system. Now, if it is 128, it is a direct communication. Again go for assessment. Now let's say there is again a router in place. If the TTL is reduced to 1, now let's say if instead of 128, I am seeing the TTL as 127 or 126. So again, I can assume that, okay, this is the Microsoft or a Windows operating system. But again, I'm getting a value of 127 or 126. So again, there may be a different routers. My destination machine is not directly connected to me or within the same network. It is located on a different network because the TTL I'm getting it as 127 or 127. So it is passing through different routers. So every time it passes through a router, the value is decremented by 1. So instead of 128, I'm receiving 127 or 126. So along with the operating system version, I can also assume that there are different networks on which my destination machine is available, right? So this is how, along with the scanning techniques, I can also use this Wireshark to assess the operating system as well as the kind of communication or the routers that are in place with respect to me. So this is possible with respect because of the parameter in the IP header of, that is parameter nothing but the time to live, right? So what is the time to live? Now let's say we are discussing about TTL value of 128. So similarly, if this is for Windows, similarly for Linux distributions, most of the Linux distributions uses the TTL value 64. Now similarly, if I get a TTL reply or the TTL value in any one of the Wireshark communications are 64, I can assume that instead of Windows, this particular destination machine is of Linux distribution because I'm getting the TTL value of 64. And if I'm getting the TTL value of 255 or 254, something ranges between 255 and 254, I can assume this particular communication with respect to network. Why? Because this networking mechanism or networking device, most of the networking devices, they use the TTL values or within the ranges of 255, 254, and 253. So if the TTL value is of 128, I can assume it is a Windows operating system. If it is 64, I can assume it is a Linux operating system. And if it is 255 or 254 or 253, I can assume it is a networking devices. And if it is decremented by 1 or 2, so I can assume there are again routers or my destination mission is on a different network also. Okay, so this is about the TTL or the IP network as well as ICMP. Now what we'll do, again we'll run the Wireshark. We'll try to see the TCP, the transport layer communication, as well as we'll try to see the application. Then we can quickly move on to the Nmap communication. So for this, again, I'm starting my Wireshark to again start packet capturing. Now I will just open any one of the browsers. Okay. And my the other mission, as I said, that the target mission is already running with a web server. So what I will do, I'll simply give the IP address of the target mission. Okay. Now let's say there is a web server which is already running on my target machine. I'm just opening the browser and I'm just typing 192.168.10.5. Okay, I have I can able to see one web page. Now we'll try to see whether the same, because as you have already seen that this belongs to the application layer. So application in the sense I'm currently using a protocol of HTTP, right? So I should able to capture now the application layer protocols till the physical layer. Now we'll try to again check with the Wireshark whether all this communication has been captured or not. Yeah. Now on the Wireshark window, I can able to see all this application layer traffic has been captured. Okay, I think there are two windows which are opened with respect to Wireshark. Yeah, I can open the first window, the other window, where I can able to see the TCP entire communication. Okay, now I'm just trying to stop this communication. Okay, now we have seen Ethernet protocol, we have seen ARP, we have seen IP, as well as we have seen ICMP. Now we'll quickly move on to the TCP. Now in the apply the display filter, we'll try to filter with respect to the TCP. Okay, just let's say if you want to filter any kind of protocol in the Wireshark, just go to the display filter and type the protocol name. Okay, now let's say if I'm you can see now I have given the capital TCP and the entire bar has been turned to red. That means whatever the communication or trying to search for is not correct. So we have to give the small case TCP. Okay, small case TCP. Now you can see the particular bar has been turned into green. That means whatever the command I have given, it is perfectly right. Okay, just click on enter here. Okay, now whenever I click on this enter, I can see all the communication related to the TCP that is possible here. Now we already know that TCP has a three-way communication or the TCP three-way handshake, where in the three-way handshake, before starting the actual communication, I will use the SYN packet, then I'll get a reply acknowledgement, then again I'll send the acknowledgement. So SYN, SYNACK and ACK. So once this three-way handshake is completed, then only the actual HTTP data will be sent for the communication using the application layer protocol. Now you can see the entire communication I can visualize using this because I have opened a browser. I have used one particular website to actually send the communication. But before that HTTP communication is being started, my TCP communication has to be initiated and then the HTTP communication will be sent. Now you can see the sequence from the beginning. I can see in the first 144 packet from 10.4, I'm trying to send a communication to 10.5. So my SYN packet has been sent to from 10.4 to 10.5 and you can see that particular packet has been sent. So similarly, we'll go to the quickly to the TCP protocol in the second section of the TCP protocol kind of dissection. Now here we can see in this particular window, if we elaborate this TCP protocol, so I'm sending a communication onto port number 80. So you can see the destination port as 80, right? So from 10.4 to 10.5, I am trying to start a HTTP communication that is nothing but the destination port is 80. And in the flag section, this is my first communication. So my SYN packet or the SYN flag will be set to 1. Okay, out of these 6 flags in the TCP communication, so my SYN flag is set to 1. So you can see the SYN flag is set to 1. So I can say that this is my first communication and none of the flags has been set to 1. Now if you go to the second packet in the 147, so I can see it is SYN plus ACK. So quickly you can see in the TCP/IP protocol suite that here the SYN as well as acknowledgement, both the flags are set to 1, right? So this is the second packet. The first packet I've initiated using SYN, and in the second packet, along with the SYN, I'm receiving acknowledgement from the destination. So this is the SYN plus acknowledgement packet I'm receiving from the destination. So in the third communication, as a client, I have to again send the acknowledgement to the server saying that I'm ready for the communication. Now in the third packet again, what is that? I am establishing the communication used to from the client to the server by enabling the acknowledgement packet. So we can see the three-way handshake clearly here or visualize in the Wireshark packets now. The first one is I'm trying to send a SYN communication from the client to the server. So the SYN flag is set to 1. And again, in the second communication, I am receiving from the server the SYN as well as acknowledgement. Both the flags are set to 1. In the third communication, again from the client to the server, I'm setting the acknowledgement packet set to 1. Now you can see in the flag section, all the respective flags are being set. So once this TCP three-way handshake is set, okay, so based on the flags, the system will also understand what kind of packet that has been set. Okay, so SYN, SYN-ACK, and ACK. So these three, why actually this we are focusing more, or because the same also we are using this because one scanning technique we are used with respect to the IP address. I'm using a simple scanning technique using ping IP address. If I get the reply, I can assume that whether the system is up or not. Now, let's say there may be some cases in security, what we'll do is we'll use some firewall communications or some firewall security devices where this the basic ping command or the ping scan that will be disabled by most of the firewalls or most of the security devices. But as an attacker or as an kind of thing, I also need to understand whether this particular system is available or not. Because if I use a ping scan, ping itself will be blocked by the firewall. So I cannot, even though system is up, I cannot able to understand whether the system is up or not because the firewall is blocking my communication. So because we already know this TCP/IP communication, if let's say there is a web server which is running on the destination machine. So to connect to the destination, I may be using the allowed protocol or the allowed port number. Let's say a web server is running. So I may be using a browser, like similarly, whatever the communication which has been generated by ourselves. So I'm opening a browser, I'm giving an IP address. Even though the firewall is in place, this communication is allowed. Why? Why? Because the port number 80 is allowed through the firewall. So similarly, I will use this kind of, because TCP is also allowed into this communication. So I will use this TCP three-way handshake communication along with the for scanning techniques also. That is where this particular three-way handshake understanding is very much important. So whenever I'm initiating a communication, I'm using a SYN packet. If I'm getting a reply from the server, I'm using SYN plus acknowledgement. That means if I get acknowledgement from the server, I understood that that particular system or the web server is up and running and it is giving an acknowledgement to me. Then in the third communication, I will send the acknowledgement. So this makes the three-way handshake, and that means as an end user, I can able to understand that the end or the destination machine is up, right? So using this communication, I'll use the same scanning techniques also, which we'll use in the next using the commands of using Nmap. So, but we can visualize the same in the Wireshark, SYN, SYN-ACK, and ACK. Now, after SYN, SYNAC, and DAC, you can see the HTTP communication started flowing. Okay. Now, this is the actual HTTP communication for which the application protocol, because this is the application protocol. After the transportation protocol layer, we have application protocol. So all the HTTP communications will be starting from this, and the respective HTTP protocols can be seen here, and the respective headers can also be seen in the protocol, right? So this is about Wireshark. I hope this is very much understandable with respect to the kind of communication that is possible. Till now, we have seen all the kind of communication with respect to the TCP/IP protocol suite. So what are the protocols we have learned at each and every layer that we can visualize using this Wireshark. And this Wireshark is most widely used packet analysis tool also, because whatever the parameters that we are talking with respect to the headers, that we can visualize here. So if something research or analysis that we want to do on the packets, so that can be made possible using this particular tool, right? So that can be used with this particular tool. Now we will quickly move on to the other tool called Nmap. So for this, Dheeraj, you can just give me the presentation to me. I'll just run a quick presentation. Then we can see the demo immediately. Dheeraj, you can quickly give the presentation control to me. Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen. Yeah, I hope you can able to see the presentation. So what happens in scanning techniques is our main objective of this scanning